The night Evelyn Mercer was thrown out of her own family mansion, she realized the people who raised her had been hiding something for years. Stick with me, because what she discovered inside those papers would destroy the Mercer family forever. "You should have signed the papers when Dad asked." Those cold words came from her older sister Celeste as two security guards grabbed Evelyn by the arms and escorted her toward the front doors like she was some dangerous stranger. Only an hour earlier, Evelyn believed she was attending her father Graham Mercer's 65th birthday party. The mansion was full of wealthy guests, lawyers, business partners, and relatives drinking champagne under sparkling lights. Everything looked perfect from the outside. Then Graham suddenly called Evelyn into the center of the room. A lawyer placed several documents in front of her and told her to sign quickly so the family could move forward together. Her mother Lorraine smiled nervously beside him, insisting it was only temporary restructuring for the company. But something immediately felt wrong. The papers transferred nearly everything the Mercer family owned into Celeste's control. The mansion, investment properties, company shares, even family accounts Evelyn had never heard about before. Her father became irritated when she tried reading carefully. "Just sign it," Graham snapped quietly. Then Evelyn noticed one strange sentence buried deep inside the paperwork. It mentioned childhood trust accounts created under her own name. She froze. "What trust accounts?" she asked. For 1 second, the entire room went silent. Lorraine quickly interrupted, claiming the accounts were unimportant. But Evelyn kept reading. Several account numbers were partially hidden, and pages seemed to be missing. Her heart started pounding. When she refused to sign, everything exploded. Graham accused her of being selfish and ungrateful. Lorraine began crying in front of the guests, claiming Evelyn wanted to destroy the family. People stared at her like she had done something terrible. Meanwhile, Celeste sat quietly beside them with a smile that looked forced. Then Graham publicly announced that Celeste was now his only real daughter. The humiliation burned through Evelyn as security escorted her outside while guests whispered behind her back. But right before leaving, Evelyn looked at Celeste one last time. And suddenly, she noticed something terrifying. Celeste did not look victorious. She looked afraid. Later that night, Evelyn sat alone inside her car outside the mansion gates, staring at the papers she secretly took before leaving. That was when she noticed several missing account numbers connected to her childhood. And deep down, Evelyn knew her family had just revealed the beginning of something far darker than betrayal. After being disowned, Evelyn Mercer disappeared completely from the Mercer family's world. Nobody saw her at social events anymore. Her number changed. She left her apartment quietly and moved into a small rented place across the city where nobody knew her name. For the Mercer family, it was easy to pretend she no longer existed. Meanwhile, life inside the mansion became even more luxurious. Celeste Mercer stepped fully into her role as the perfect daughter. Expensive renovations transformed the estate. New luxury cars appeared in the driveway almost every month. Lorraine Mercer hosted elegant parties filled with wealthy guests and smiling business partners. Whenever people asked about Evelyn, Lorraine always gave the same answer. She became unstable after failing the family. Soon, everyone believed it. But while the Mercer family enjoyed their glamorous life, Evelyn spent every day studying the papers she secretly took from the mansion that night. At first, she only wanted answers about the hidden trust accounts connected to her childhood. What she found terrified her. Millions of dollars had once existed under accounts created in her name when she was very young. The accounts stretched across years of financial records, investments, and transfers. But most of the money was gone. The withdrawals began when Evelyn was only 9 years old. At first, she blamed her parents immediately. Graham Mercer controlled the company finances, and Lorraine always handled family paperwork. It seemed obvious they had stolen from her. But then strange details started appearing. Several signatures did not match official documents. Some withdrawal dates overlapped in impossible ways. One large transfer happened while Graham was overseas on a business trip according to public company records. The deeper Evelyn looked, the more confused she became. Someone had been carefully moving money for years while hiding behind layers of accounts and paperwork. Late one night, Evelyn spread dozens of copied records across her kitchen table while comparing old bank statements. That was when she saw the name. Celeste Mercer. The name appeared beside several transaction approvals connected to Evelyn's trust accounts. Evelyn stared at the pages in disbelief. Her sister had access to the accounts. More transactions followed under Celeste's authorization codes over multiple years. Some amounts were small. Others were massive enough to buy properties or luxury cars. Suddenly, memories started replaying in Evelyn's mind. The expensive gifts Celeste always received. The sudden vacations. The strange tension whenever money problems hit the company. For the first time, Evelyn wondered if her sister had been secretly stealing from her since childhood. The next morning, Evelyn made a decision. She contacted a forensic accountant named Marcus Reed and handed him every document she had collected. Then she quietly said the words that changed everything. "I think my family has been hiding financial fraud for years." As Evelyn Mercer continued investigating the hidden trust accounts, painful memories from childhood slowly returned to her. The Mercer family had never treated both daughters the same. Celeste was always the golden child. She received expensive gifts on every birthday, attended elite private schools, and traveled on luxury vacations with her parents. Graham Mercer proudly introduced Celeste to business partners as the future of the family empire. Meanwhile, Evelyn learned very early how to stay quiet. Whenever something went wrong inside the house, blame somehow found its way to her. If money disappeared from the company, Graham became cold and angry toward Evelyn for days even when she had nothing to do with it. Lorraine Mercer was even worse in quieter ways. She constantly manipulated Evelyn emotionally until she apologized for problems she never caused. Lorraine always spoke softly, but her words made Evelyn feel guilty for simply existing. "You upset your father again. Why can't you support your sister? You know how fragile this family is." Over time, Evelyn stopped defending herself completely. But now, years later, the deeper she investigated the family finances, the stranger everything became. After rumors spread that Evelyn was asking questions about old company accounts, former employees from the Mercer company quietly began contacting her. Most were nervous. Several admitted they had suspected financial fraud for years, but were too afraid to speak while Graham and Lorraine controlled the company. One former assistant described watching Lorraine move files late at night after everyone else left the office. Another employee remembered sudden account changes whenever the company struggled financially. Then Evelyn met a retired accountant named Walter Briggs. The old man looked deeply uncomfortable during their meeting. Finally, he handed Evelyn several copied documents. What she saw made her stomach turn. For years, large payments had been withdrawn under labels marked medical support for Evelyn Mercer. But Evelyn had never received medical treatment, special care, or any money connected to those accounts. Someone had been using her identity like a hidden bank account. The withdrawals stretched across years. Millions of dollars were gone. Meanwhile, back inside the Mercer mansion, Celeste began noticing signs that terrified her. Banks were requesting old records again. Lawyers started asking quiet questions. Even former employees suddenly refused to answer her calls. Then Celeste secretly visited Evelyn's abandoned apartment late one evening. The place was mostly empty. But inside a hidden kitchen drawer, Celeste found copied bank statements and handwritten notes connected to the trust accounts. Her face turned pale instantly. For the first time in years, the confident golden daughter looked truly afraid. That same night, Celeste locked herself inside her bedroom and made a private phone call. Her voice shook quietly as the person answered. "She knows about the accounts." Years passed after Evelyn Mercer disappeared from the family. During that time, nobody heard from her publicly. The Mercer family acted as if she no longer existed. Inside the mansion, Celeste continued living a life filled with luxury, expensive events, and business dinners beside their parents. Then everything changed suddenly. Graham Mercer died first after a serious health problem shocked the entire business world. Only a few months later, Lorraine Mercer also passed away unexpectedly. The deaths shattered the Mercer empire almost immediately. Without Graham controlling the company, hidden financial problems began appearing everywhere. Investors lost confidence. Business partners quietly walked away. Employees started resigning before rumors spread further. Then lawsuits began arriving. Creditors demanded unpaid money. Banks questioned old financial records. Former employees started speaking about suspicious transactions inside the company. For the first time, the powerful Mercer name looked weak. But Celeste refused to accept reality. She continued hosting expensive parties inside the mansion while pretending everything remained stable. Luxury cars still filled the driveway. Reporters still photographed her smiling outside charity events. Behind closed doors, however, panic slowly consumed her life. Then another disaster arrived. Several Mercer accounts were suddenly frozen during a fraud review connected to old trust funds. Celeste exploded with anger. Even though nobody had seen Evelyn in years, Celeste publicly blamed her for the investigation. She told relatives and business contacts that Evelyn was trying to destroy the family out of revenge. Most people believed her. At the funeral gathering for Graham and Lorraine, wealthy guests whispered quietly about the missing daughter who vanished after being disowned years earlier. Some believed Evelyn left the country completely. Others claimed she changed her identity. Nobody noticed the woman standing far away near the cemetery entrance, watching everything silently. Evelyn had returned. Hidden beneath dark clothing and sunglasses, she watched the funeral from a distance, without speaking to anyone. Her attention stayed focused on Celeste the entire time. At first, Celeste appeared calm while greeting guests and accepting condolences. But the longer Evelyn watched, the stranger her sister behaved. Celeste constantly scanned the crowd nervously. She checked every arriving car. Every unfamiliar face seemed to frighten her. It almost looked like she expected someone dangerous to appear at any moment. That same night, Evelyn returned to her hotel room and found a sealed package waiting outside her door. There was no return address. Inside were copied financial records, hidden wire transfers, and account statements connected to the Mercer estate. Evelyn slowly flipped through the pages. Every transaction led back to one name: Celeste Mercer. Some transfers involved amounts far larger than anything Evelyn had previously uncovered. Her hands tightened around the papers as a terrible realization settled in. The theft was far bigger than she ever imagined. The deeper Evelyn Mercer investigated the missing trust money, the more painful the truth became. For years, she believed Celeste had stolen everything alone. But the real mastermind was someone far closer: their mother. After reviewing hidden financial records with forensic accountant Marcus Reed, Evelyn finally saw the full pattern clearly. Celeste had access to the trust account since she was young, but most of the transactions were carefully controlled through shell companies and fake business accounts connected to Lorraine Mercer. Lorraine had secretly directed everything for years. The woman who constantly spoke about family loyalty had been stealing from her own daughter since childhood. Marcus uncovered forged signatures, hidden transfers, and fake account authorizations buried deep inside old company records. Large amounts of money were moved through complicated layers designed to hide where the funds originally came from. And almost every trail led back to Lorraine. Evelyn slowly realized how carefully her mother manipulated everyone around her, especially Celeste. Growing up, Celeste was taught that protecting the Mercer empire mattered more than anything else. Lorraine convinced her the money already belonged to the family and that Evelyn was too weak and emotional to understand real responsibility. Whenever the company struggled financially, Lorraine quietly used Evelyn's trust funds to cover losses. Over time, the fraud became normal inside the family. Even Graham Mercer may never have fully understood how large the theft became before his death. But then Evelyn uncovered something even darker. Lorraine had protected herself carefully the entire time. Most financial records connected directly to Celeste instead. If investigators ever discovered the fraud publicly, Celeste would carry nearly all the legal blame. The realization made Evelyn sick. Her own mother had prepared her sister to become the perfect scapegoat. Meanwhile, federal investigators officially began questioning Celeste about old company accounts and frozen trust funds. For the first time in her life, the confident golden daughter looked completely terrified. A few days later, Evelyn received a message asking to meet privately. The sisters saw each other for the first time in years inside a quiet restaurant far outside the city. Celeste looked exhausted. Her hands shook slightly as she spoke. "She controlled everything," Celeste whispered. "Mom told me we were saving the family." Evelyn listened silently while anger and confusion battled inside her. Part of her wanted to hate Celeste completely. Another part saw someone who had also been manipulated for years. Tears filled Celeste's eyes as she admitted the truth. "She destroyed both of our lives." But Evelyn still did not know whether she could trust anything her sister said anymore. Then Celeste leaned forward nervously and lowered her voice. "There's something else you don't know," she whispered. Evelyn stared at her carefully. Celeste looked genuinely afraid. "There's another will you haven't seen." After learning about the hidden second will, Evelyn Mercer became obsessed with finding Daniel Harlow, her father's former attorney. Nobody had seen Daniel publicly since shortly before Graham Mercer died. Some people believed he retired quietly. Others claimed he disappeared because of the growing financial investigations surrounding the Mercer Company. It took Evelyn weeks to finally locate him living alone in a small coastal town far from the city. When Daniel opened the door and saw Evelyn standing there, his face immediately filled with guilt. "I wondered when you would find me," he said softly. Inside the small house, Daniel revealed the truth Graham Mercer tried to hide before his death. A second will existed. Graham secretly changed it after discovering millions of dollars had vanished through Evelyn's childhood trust accounts years earlier. At first, Graham suspected outside fraud. But during his private investigation, he slowly realized Lorraine had been moving money behind his back for years. According to Daniel, Graham became horrified after uncovering how deeply the fraud spread through the company. "He was trying to protect you," Daniel explained quietly. But before Graham could expose Lorraine publicly, his health rapidly declined. Then came the most shocking part. The second will divided the Mercer estate equally between Evelyn and Celeste. Not just the mansion. Everything. Company shares, investments, properties, and remaining family assets. Evelyn sat silently while Daniel handed her copies of the hidden documents. But one final condition inside the will changed everything. If evidence of fraud connected to Evelyn's trust accounts ever became public, the entire Mercer estate had to be liquidated immediately. Every asset would be sold. The mansion, the business, everything the Mercer family spent decades building. Evelyn's chest tightened as she realized what that meant. The moment investigators officially proved financial fraud, the Mercer empire would destroy itself automatically. Later that evening, Evelyn met Celeste privately and showed her the second will. As Celeste read the documents, the color slowly disappeared from her face. For years, she believed Lorraine protected her above everyone else. Now, she finally understood the truth. Their mother planned to leave her carrying the legal blame alone while protecting the family fortune for herself. Celeste broke down crying. "She used me," she whispered repeatedly. But before Evelyn could fully process everything herself, breaking news suddenly exploded across every major media outlet. Federal investigators officially opened a fraud case connected to the Mercer estate and missing trust funds. Within hours, reporters surrounded the company headquarters. Banks froze additional accounts. Investors panicked publicly. Then the final blow arrived days later. Large foreclosure notices were placed directly onto the gates of the Mercer mansion while cameras recorded everything from the street outside. The once powerful Mercer empire was collapsing for the entire world to see. And there was no way to stop it anymore. The Mercer family name collapsed faster than anyone expected. Every week brought new headlines about fraud, missing trust money, and secret financial schemes hidden inside the Mercer company for years. Business magazines published long reports describing how the once powerful empire was falling apart from the inside. Investors abandoned the company quickly. Banks demanded repayment. Former business partners publicly denied connections to the Mercer family. Then former employees began speaking openly to investigators. Several testified that Lorraine Mercer secretly controlled hidden financial accounts for years. Others admitted they saw suspicious transfers and fake paperwork, but stayed silent out of fear. The deeper investigators looked, the uglier the truth became. Meanwhile, Celeste Mercer's life completely unraveled. Lawyers called her daily demanding explanations for financial records connected to Evelyn's trust accounts. Reporters followed her outside restaurants and stores. Online articles described her as the face of the Mercer scandal. For the first time in her life, Celeste experienced the same isolation Evelyn once lived through. People whispered when she entered rooms. Friends stopped answering her calls. Even distant relatives avoided her completely. The perfect golden daughter was finally alone. But while the world focused on the Mercer collapse, Evelyn quietly built something nobody expected. Using financial information uncovered during her investigation, she secretly began purchasing Mercer Company debts through a private investment firm operating under a hidden corporate name. Slowly, piece by piece, Evelyn gained control over large portions of the collapsing Mercer empire. Nobody realized the truth. Banks believed outside investors were buying the debts. Lawyers assumed wealthy competitors were preparing to destroy the Mercer Company completely. Even Celeste believed Evelyn only wanted revenge after everything their family had done to her. But revenge was no longer Evelyn's true goal. She wanted the full truth exposed. And she wanted control over the future her family stole from her years ago. Then Daniel Harlow contacted her again with another secret Graham Mercer left behind. Inside a protected investment account hidden under legal protections Lorraine could never access, Graham had quietly saved money for Evelyn over many years. The account remained untouched after his death. When Daniel finally showed Evelyn the financial records, she stared at the numbers in complete shock. The investments had grown into a fortune worth millions. Enough money to buy properties. Enough to control the remaining Mercer assets. Enough to purchase the mansion itself if it ever went to auction. For the first time since being disowned, Evelyn realized she no longer needed permission from anyone in her family to reclaim what belonged to her. A few days later, official auction notices appeared publicly across the city. The Mercer mansion was officially being prepared for sale. The same house where Evelyn had once been thrown out like a stranger would soon belong to whoever could afford to buy it. And Evelyn was already preparing for that moment. The day of the Mercer estate auction felt like the funeral of an empire. The mansion that once hosted luxury parties and powerful business meetings was now filled with wealthy buyers, investors, reporters, and curious strangers hoping to purchase pieces of the fallen Mercer fortune. People walked through the grand halls quietly discussing prices, debts, and scandals connected to the family. Paintings were tagged for sale. Luxury furniture stood under bright auction lights. Even expensive cars outside carried numbered stickers waiting for bids. Near the back of the crowded room, Celeste Mercer stood alone. She looked completely different from the confident woman who once controlled the mansion. Dark circles rested beneath her eyes. Her expensive clothes could not hide how exhausted and emotionally broken she had become. Guests whispered openly as she passed. "That's the Mercer daughter. They lost everything. I heard the fraud investigation is even worse than people thought." For the first time in her life, Celeste had no power to stop the whispers. Then the auction officially began. One by one, pieces of the Mercer empire disappeared. Luxury artwork sold to private collectors. Rare vehicles were claimed by investors. Business properties vanished through aggressive bidding wars. Each sale felt like another piece of the family name being erased forever. Finally, the auctioneer announced the final item, the Mercer mansion itself. The room immediately became tense. Several wealthy buyers started bidding against each other while reporters prepared cameras nearby. The numbers climbed higher and higher within minutes. Then suddenly, a new bidder entered through an anonymous corporate account. The unknown company overwhelmed every competing offer almost instantly. The room fell silent. Nobody knew who controlled the corporation. Even the auctioneer looked surprised while reviewing the final paperwork handed to him moments later. Then, he cleared his throat carefully. "The purchasing company belongs to Evelyn Mercer." The room exploded with shock. Reporters rushed forward. Guests began shouting questions. Several investors turned toward Celeste in disbelief. Celeste herself looked frozen. For years, everyone believed Evelyn Mercer disappeared after being publicly disowned by her family. Now the daughter they erased had returned as the new owner of the entire estate they tried to take from her. Slowly, Evelyn stepped forward from the back of the room. Her expression remained calm and unreadable while cameras flashed around her. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. Because this had never been only about revenge. It was about proving who truly destroyed the Mercer family from the beginning. Across the room, Celeste stared at her younger sister with tears slowly filling her eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then Evelyn calmly began walking toward her for the first time in years while the entire room watched in complete silence. After the auction ended and the reporters finally disappeared, the Mercer mansion became quiet for the first time in years. Most of the furniture was already gone. Empty walls and silent hallways made the giant house feel cold and unfamiliar. Late that evening, Evelyn Mercer found Celeste sitting alone inside the old family dining room. The same room where their parents once controlled every conversation. For several long seconds, neither sister spoke. Then Celeste finally looked up with tired eyes. "You deserve the truth," she whispered. Slowly, the full story began to unfold. Years earlier, Evelyn's grandfather secretly created trust funds for her future. The money was supposed to protect Evelyn no matter what happened to the Mercer Company. But Lorraine Mercer discovered the accounts during a financial crisis inside the business. The company was already drowning in debt. Instead of admitting failure publicly, Lorraine secretly started taking money from Evelyn's accounts to keep the Mercer empire alive. At first, the amounts were small. Then the fraud grew larger every year. Lorraine created shell companies, forged signatures, and moved money through hidden offshore accounts. Whenever the company faced another financial disaster, she returned to Evelyn's trust funds again. Over time, the theft became impossible to control. Celeste lowered her head while speaking. "She told me we were saving the family," she admitted quietly. Since childhood, Lorraine convinced Celeste that protecting the Mercer name mattered more than anything else. Celeste spent her entire life desperate for her mother's approval. Whenever Celeste questioned the missing money, Lorraine manipulated her emotionally until she stopped asking questions. "I saw warning signs," Celeste confessed. "I just didn't want to believe what Mom was becoming." Tears slowly filled her eyes. Then Evelyn revealed something Celeste never expected. "I already knew most of this before I came back," Evelyn said calmly. Celeste stared at her in shock. For years after disappearing, Evelyn secretly investigated everyone connected to the missing accounts. She tracked shell companies, hidden transfers, and offshore financial records tied to the Mercer empire. She quietly built the entire case piece by piece before returning publicly. Celeste looked confused. "Then why come back at all?" she asked softly. Evelyn's answer came without anger. "Because I wanted one person in this family to finally tell the truth willingly." The words shattered something inside Celeste completely. For the first time, she realized Evelyn was the only person who truly tried to save her from becoming their mother's final victim. Celeste broke down, crying quietly inside the empty mansion. Outside, investigators continued building criminal cases connected to Lorraine Mercer's hidden financial network. And soon, the full truth behind the Mercer empire would become public forever. Almost a year after the Mercer empire collapsed, the mansion finally felt different. Quiet, peaceful. The endless phone calls, angry lawyers, reporters, and investigators were all gone now. The fraud investigations officially ended with massive financial settlements and criminal findings connected to Lorraine Mercer's hidden schemes. The Mercer business empire no longer existed. Everything Graham and Lorraine spent decades building had collapsed completely under the weight of lies, stolen money, and betrayal. Most of the extended family disappeared once the wealth vanished. Relatives who once filled the mansion during holidays suddenly stopped calling. Former family friends moved on quickly after realizing there was no fortune left to protect. Only silence remained inside the giant house. Celeste Mercer also disappeared from the city after cooperating with investigators during the final stages of the case. Before leaving, she gave Evelyn one final handwritten letter. Evelyn read it alone late one evening inside the library. The words felt painfully honest. Celeste admitted she spent her entire life trying to become the daughter Lorraine wanted. She obeyed every demand, ignored every warning sign, and convinced herself the lies were necessary to protect the family. But in the end, Lorraine destroyed both of them anyway. After finishing the letter, Evelyn quietly folded it and placed it inside a drawer without speaking. Day by day, she slowly restored the mansion. Old furniture returned. Broken rooms were repaired. Dust-covered family photographs were carefully packed away. As the house changed, forgotten childhood memories slowly returned too. Evelyn remembered moments before money and manipulation poisoned everything inside the family. For the first time in her life, the mansion finally belonged to someone who was not trying to control others through fear, guilt, or power. One evening, Evelyn stood alone inside the grand entry hall, the same place where Graham Mercer publicly disowned her years earlier. The memory still lived clearly inside her mind. She remembered the shocked faces staring at her. She remembered security guards escorting her outside while guests whispered behind her back. Most of all, she remembered Celeste's cold whisper. "You should have signed the papers." Back then, Evelyn thought losing the mansion meant losing her entire family forever. Now the giant house stood completely silent around her. And legally, it belonged to her. No lies. No manipulation. No one left to take it away again. Evelyn walked slowly toward the front doors and locked them herself. Then she stood quietly for a moment inside the peaceful mansion that once destroyed her childhood. Finally, she spoke softly into the silence. "They stole my childhood to save their empire." Her eyes moved across the empty hall one last time. "But in the end, the house came back to me."